All right, let's get this started. So today we're going to cover basically how to make your Xero reporting as profitable as possible. Okay, I'm going to do it in like a fast 30-minute format. I don't have any space for questions during, but definitely afterwards. So I'm going to stick around after it's all over, and you can ask me whatever you like. Okay. Now I'm going to be reading directly from this document here, and I'm going to be in Xero as well. I put a link to this in the Zoom and in the Facebook group. So if you want a copy of it, just jump in, download it. It's a Google Drive document, so you can just grab it, download it. There's also a link to this, which is a master chart of accounts in Microsoft Excel. So there's a link to that, also a link to our website as well. Okay, let me just check that everything's working properly over here. Looks like everything is. Nothing's broken. Good. Okay. All right. Just going to make sure my chat box is open just in case people are talking to me and I can't. Where's the chat? Okay. Okay, good. Just drag the chat over here. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? Well, we're going to look at a bit of a, well, we don't need to worry about that. We're going to look at a typical example of moving from Handiledger to Xero for financial statements. We're going to look at what it takes to make it successful, how long it's going to take, what the end result looks like, and most important thing is how much time and how much money do you need to invest to get the best result. Now, FYI, I don't have any affiliation with Xero at all. I worked there for 3 years and I've been helping accounting practices across Australia, specifically for Xero financial statements for the last 5 years. I've done over 200 practices and they're pretty much all the same because the problems are the same. Okay. A lot of clients come to me and say, it takes me 30 minutes to do financials, whereas in Handiledger, it took me 30 seconds. So my promise is that I will get you back to that sort of 60-second turnaround. Okay, so what we'll look at a case study. Best way to do this is to sort of look at a typical client that I've had. So this one here, Harry, he's a one partner firm on the Central Coast. He's got 4 accountants, some trying to work from home. He's got a practice manager. Luckily, he's got a good practice manager. The staff have got a little bit of Xero experience. Client base is, it's typical client base, few family groups. Most of the clients have the mindset of, if I pay less tax, my accountant is eligible. He's used Handiledger Sage products. He's used the typical, system that was around 20 years ago. He's got a typical system. What he wants to look at is, long-term growth. What type of software should I use? Can I better serve my clients? So probably all the things that you guys are thinking of or have thought of and have executed or are thinking of executing. What's important though for a project like this, when you move to Xero for financial statements, is you're going to do it at a point in time. What does that mean? Well, Harry, for example, he's got 300 clients that require financial statements. So 300 entities. 95 are already on Xero. So he's kind of looked at it and gone, well, a third of my client base is on Xero. I'm exporting the data and I'm putting it into Sage. That's time consuming. It's risky. It's painful. Can we use Xero for our financial statements? And, basically when you ask yourself that question, these are the types of questions that Harry asked. Can Xero do distributions, appropriations? Can it report on all different entity types? Corporate trustees, unit trusts. Does it have beneficiary reporting? Is there appropriations? Is it compliant with the industry? You know, if I'm CA, CPA, IPA, am I going to have the quality assurance I need? You know, what risks are there? What have other firms done? So all those questions will be answered at the end of this demo. All right. So they tried to do it themselves, which is what a lot of my clients do. And then they come to me afterwards and go, yeah, didn't go so well. Can you help me out? A lot of the major problems are sometimes the appropriation system is flawed and it's messy and people get lost and confused. The chart of accounts can be inconsistent because some of your clients have got their own chart and then you've got your chart, and et cetera, et cetera. But one of the main problems is contra accounts can be upside down. Accumulated can be sitting above, sitting above the companion account. They had to drag and drop accounts to get them in the right part of the reports. Okay. So what that actually ended up happening is for 300 clients, they were, you know, at risk of losing about 150 hours a year just on one task. Okay, that's very common for a lot of the people that come and see me. They come and see me and say, this is ridiculous. 30 minutes is absolutely ridiculous. And I couldn't agree more. And all my clients couldn't agree more. So Harry reached out, and here is what we did to help out Harry. Now, all this stuff you can read afterwards. Otherwise, we'll be here for 3 or 4 hours, and I don't really want to do that to you. Let's zoom in. Okay, so what do we do? How do we approach this? And how should you approach this? The best way to look at it is ask yourself, what does not work in Xero? The reason we ask that is we need to know what the limitations are and build around those limitations. Okay. Then we don't have what we would call a software surprise in the future when we think we've set something up properly, only to realize later that there's something missing. Okay, that's not a good outcome. And that's very common for people who try and do it themselves. Probably the main things that Xero doesn't do is settings. Let me just jump into HQ and a trust here. What do I mean by settings? Okay, if I go here, and this is a very common assumption for accounting practices to make. If I change the organization type, if I change it from trust to sole trader or self-managed super fund or whatever, you'd think it might A, change the chart of accounts, or B, change the report, the financial statement format. Okay, those assumptions are very common, but the fact is this does nothing at all. Changing this does absolutely nothing. I could make it a club or a society, and as soon as I press save, I'm going to have the exact same chart of accounts. I'm going to have the exact same report. Okay, it does nothing. All right, you've got to understand that. And not only that, as accountants, if we chose trust, you'd kind of naturally think, well, where's the window to put the trustee type, and who signs it? Directors, individuals. What's their names? Where do I put their names? Okay. Now, if I go back to the guide, what you'll see is that's why we build reports. Now, this is a typical list of reports we build. We build to get around that. We build you a trust template with a corporate trustee, and then we have either 1 or 2 signatures. You can have 3 or 4 if you like. You can see the reason we build them like this, and this is what you need to do, is you need to build them like this. Otherwise, when you run the reports, the wording is all going to be messy. That's what Harry was experiencing, was when he would run just a standard trust report, it would say things like, oh, the trustee has, not, oh, the trustee have, or the directors have, or the directors has, etc., etc. There was, you know, the word beneficiary instead of unit holder, directors, partners. It was really messy, okay? The wrong information was landing in the wrong part of the report, and they had to edit, you know, the notes, the declarations, the compilation reports. Painful, okay? That's why you have to structure them like we do. So that's the first task you need to do. The second task is you need to have a master chart of accounts, because there's no point doing this unless you've got a good master. Okay, I've got a link here on the document, and there's a link in the chat to this one here. This is an example of just the trust one. You know, we provide unit trust, company, partnership, sole trader, not-for-profit. The main thing is that this one's set up, and it's a more accountant-friendly chart. You can probably see, you know, here's all the revenue accounts, investment accounts, asset disposal, you know, direct costs. There's a lot more expense accounts, a lot more detail. Then you come down to the assets. There's, you know, there's related parties, there's, you know, structural improvements, etc. There's a lot more, there's more intangibles, borrowing costs, etc., etc. So we've kind of expanded it and made it as friendly as possible to an accounting practice. You'll see the reporting name column. We use the reporting name column because that there helps us identify whether it's non-current or current. But when you run the balance sheet, it doesn't have NCA, it just has that. Very important column, reporting name, really, really helpful. But you can see all the different accounts. We've got distribution accounts for beneficiaries. We've got, you know, advances, drawings, and profits, so you can get the good beneficiary reporting. Okay, now you can go into Xero's Help Center, and they've got some, so you can download those yourself. The only problem is they've got a few issues in them. Probably one of the main ones is they've got the contra accounts upside down. Okay. Example here is Xero displays alphabetically. Okay, so when you run the balance sheet, that's going to sit above because A comes before P. Okay, that's why if you go like that, if you name your accounts like that, it flows alphabetically. Okay, small things like that create major issues. Okay. So the main thing here is you'll need a good master chart, and you'll need to have it for all entity types, okay, in Microsoft Excel. So that's 2 of the 4 main tasks. Okay, the third one's pretty much, you'll know this already, but you've really got to update your internal operations, checklists, etc., etc. If you don't do it, you may make some assumptions about how Xero works, especially for appropriations. One of the main things with Xero and appropriations is it's done via manual journal. Now, we do appropriations in equity, and you'll see more on why we do that. But the thing is, you need to reverse Xero, you need to reverse the entry to retained earnings on the 1st of July. Why? Well, Xero doesn't roll over. Handiledger rolls over at period end. Xero doesn't roll over. Now Xero not rolling over can create problems for appropriations and beneficiary or owner reporting. Because normally when you roll over your old software, all the beneficiary accounts, they clear to opening balances. Okay, Xero doesn't do that. If I wanted to go back and change an entry in 2014, I can go and change it, and immediately all the balances from 2014 forward are updated. Okay, it's a completely open ledger. All right, there are no rollovers. Now, a lot of the content that our clients really like that we provide them is, you know, around those issues, setting up a new Xero. Unpaid present entitlements in opening balances can create a lot of headaches. So we understand how that all works. So for you, if you don't update your internal procedures as well, you really, your staff are going to get confused. There's going to be bits and pieces everywhere. We actually give our clients, if I click that link, I'll go, if I go here, it'll take us to this. We give our clients a full suite of online content, support content, which they can access 24/7. Okay, that comes as part of the service. All right, so if you get those three things right, so that's building the reports, getting the good master chart, updating your internal operations, and the fourth part, which a lot of people forget that you need to do, is you need to tidy up your existing zeros. Okay, what does that actually mean? All right, well, remember, you might take this project on at a point in time. Let's look at Harry's example. Harry has 300 clients, 95 are already on Xero. So he's going to have to spend about 60 or 90 or 2 hours, minutes, so 1 to 2 hours, tidying up his 95 clients. What do I mean by tidying up? Okay, if you go into, I might go to the demo company. What you'll notice in some of your Xero clients is they would have set up their own chart of accounts, or they asked you to do it. Now, that can create a lot of problems because they just want to name everything the way they want to name it. They want to give it the code they want. They like their chart the way they like it. Okay, you will have clients like that. On occasion, like this one here, here's an example. If I ran that balance sheet, that's going to be upside down. So Harry and his staff, they need to come and fix a few things like these contra accounts. They need to do things like that. Same for Chattel mortgages and all those bits and pieces. You need to get that flow happening. Okay, that's a very common problem. The other problem is, and if you don't know what report codes are, then this will be a little bit challenging. The other problem is that these aren't mapped properly. Now, what that basically means is the accountant hasn't come in, so Harry or his team haven't come in and decided to allocate this account to the right part of the financial statements. For example, purchases, it's a direct cost. But over here, it's actually landing in operating expenses. So Harry and his team need to come through here and say, well, actually, no, that's a purchases account. It's not an operating expense. It should be in the trading statement. So he comes over here and he goes, purchases, done. Okay. That's what I mean by tidying up. You need to get rid of all these yellow dots. You got to map them off, tidy them up, change some of the names in the chart of accounts, and then you'll get the results you need. Okay, so back to a guide here. He's going to have to, he's got 95 clients. He's going to have to invest about 100 hours to get them tidied up. Okay, and the final part is he's got to bring over 200, his other 200 clients to Xero, and that means he needs to bring over opening balances and possibly the asset register, depending on whether he's going to do that in Xero Tax or Xero Ledger. So what a lot of my clients do is when they realize that they need to bring over the asset register and that it can be quite a high volume of data, a lot of them elect just to write off the really small ones, 30 June, year before or whatever, and then just go, right, let's just bring over the main machinery, cars, blah, blah, blah. So then they're bringing over 5 assets instead of 55, which can cut the time down. So Harry needs to bring over 200 clients. So he's got to allocate about 90 minutes per 200. So he's got 300 hours there to bring over his other 200 clients. All right, so that's just a summary. Here's a bit of a summary of what I just spoke about, the 4 things that you need to do. You need to build your own reports, lay them out in a way that makes sense. You need to have your master chart of accounts. You need to update your internal operations. And then you need to map your existing zeros. Now, in Harry's example, 300 clients, he's got about 200 hours worth of work. Now, some of you might do it in, 50 or 60 because you don't want to, like, this is all assumed that he wants to do a really good job and put a bit of time into assessing the whole operation, making sure they do things properly. I've had clients that have told me they've invested, maybe 5 hours in building the reports and 1 hour, you know what I mean? And they're the ones that come to me later saying, hey, we invested a good 3 or 4 days in this. And I'm like, well, no, it's not going to work. So that's an example for Harry, about 500 hours. Okay, so there's another page there that we can look at later, or you can look at later. There's a few ideas about distributions. So getting back to the questions that Harry asked, can we do distributions, income tax and dividends? Yes, absolutely. I can go here and show you, actually I'll show you a report. I'll show you a report on the final pages. Can Xero report for all entity types? Absolutely. See the list above. You can create, you can do joint ventures, you can do whatever you want, as long as you create them properly. Does Xero have beneficiary and partner and unit holder reporting? 100% it does, 100%. But you need to understand that they're always accumulating. Those balances are always accumulating, and you need to understand how it works and what reports to use. Is there an appropriation statement or an income distribution? Absolutely, you'll see them in the example reports. Is Xero compliant with industry standards? Yes, it's, what do they call those? XYZ financial statements. There's the new reporting, AASB 1060. I'm in chat, I'm trying to get some information from Xero about what they're doing to update that. So that's supposedly should be rolling on the 1st of July, 2022, because that's when people are going to be reporting. So you'd expect that they'll be up to date with that. Are there risks associated with your financial statements online? Well, number one is your clients can't run them. Okay, only you and your staff can, but they can see them if you've published them. Okay, all right, next part. And I made it big so you can kind of see it and it's in your face, is what would you pay us to just remove all the risk and have us come in and do it for you? Well, the good thing is we have a fixed fee. Okay, so we can always say, hey, the fee is going to be this. Now that 5.5 is an average. That's not all. That depends on how big you are, how many staff you've got, whether you want some management or tax planning reports, blah, blah, blah. So the fees range between say 4 grand and 10 grand. I just did one mid-tier practice in the city for about 9.5 grand example. But the thing is, you've got to remember that you need to invest that mapping or updating labor. Now, you wouldn't want to pay us per hour to do that part because, we're going to charge you, 150, 165 an hour, whereas, you could probably get a junior or get someone overseas to do it for a lot less than what we'll charge you. Okay, so if you've got 100 clients, you need 100 hours, estimate 50 an hour, 5 grand labor estimate for that part. Okay. All right. So in your first year, in order to fully automate all your financial statement reporting and get it really tidied up, based on Harry, and that's 10.5 grand is based on Harry. It's not based on you because he's got 300 clients and he wants, tax planning and management reports and a few bits and pieces. He's going to pay about 10.5 grand all up in 1 year. Okay, so what does that actually buy him when you look at it? Well, if you look at the problem he had a 30-minute per 300 client problem. So he's got 150 hours that he's actually lost. He had that in Handiledger. He didn't have this problem in Handiledger. So he's actually spent all this time and lost time. So it's a bit of a letdown. But we've reclaimed that 30 minutes, and not only that, we've given him some better importing tools to get the data out of MYOB or blah, 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 and put it into Xero. So if we're saving him about 250 hours a year, at $55 an hour, he's got about $14,000 a year cost reduction. And that's an annual repeating one as time goes on. Okay, so these are pretty reasonable. Some of our clients come to us and actually say it's taking 45 minutes to an hour to get them right, which is, as you know, is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so what are your options from here? Well, yep, everyone's got time, budget, constraints, whatever. Look, reality is you can go away and do what Harry did, and you might actually be really successful and really happy. Harry's an example of someone who tried it and got it wrong and has expectations. You might think what you've done so far is okay, and that's fine, all good. So you can do it yourself. We've got a DIY guide, which is basically an expanded version of this demo. All the risks on you. Okay, so if it's right, great. If it's wrong, not so great, but you're totally responsible. Second option, we've got this global course. Some of our clients, then we've got clients in Canada, New Zealand, United Kingdom. Look, a couple of grand over 2 years, 500 up front, 65 a month for 2 years. We do a one-on-one with you, a couple of those at the start just to help you get started. But you do the labor, you build the reports, you build everything, you do it yourself, okay? We are going to check it halfway and go, yep, do this, do that, and continue on, okay? There's still some risk that lands on your doorstep, but we'll mitigate that as much as we can, okay? So that's what a bit of a lower entry point there, and sometimes we do some promos, 25% off, okay? And the third one is to basically get us to do the lot. We need to get on a 30-minute Calendly. We need to get on, a Zoom, walk through everything. And like I said, the fee range, smaller practices, they will sit around that sort of 5.5 and under. Like I said, there's a mid-tier that, about 9.5 grand in mid-tier because they just had lots of stuff they wanted. Okay, and the end result is Harry Riles is now Harry Smiles. So he's smiling, he's got it all sorted, he's automated his compliance, he's CA, they're really happy because quality is good. And he started doing more value-added services for his clients because everything's live and everything's flowing into Xero, and he's happy. In this document, you'll see some links here to our website, and on the website you'll be able to look at some trust financial statements and some company ones in here, and some advisory reports and tax planning reports. In here you'll see all the beneficiary reporting, all the appropriations, all the bits and pieces that you might have questions about. You can download the examples into PDF and you can see everything. Okay. All right. We specialize in Xero for financial statements, which is a major problem for accountants, but we also work with Amy and the team at Clarity Street, who work with Xero Tax, Xero Practice Manager, Suite Files, and all those other practice solutions. So we're partnered with them. So if you needed more around your Xero practice, then Amy and the team are definitely here to help. There's a few of the apps that they work with. You'll see the Practice Ignition and Fuse Docs, etc. Okay, so I've got a promo at the moment. Whatever, if you need help, if you want to reach out, get in touch, book me for 30 minutes. We'll have a chat, and I'll give 25% off to all members of the group. So 25% off my consultation fee. So if you get me to do the work, I'll give you 25% discount as long as you commit before the 30th of June. What we'll end up talking about is basically what you saw with Harry, is I need to know what your system is, who's using it, what other apps you're using, how many clients are on Xero today, things like that. And we do have quite a few clients in the group. There's a few of them there. And, you know, I'm sure if you ask them, they would speak very well of us because they never came back and asked us to fix anything. So you'd assume that, you know, they are happy clients. And that would be the end of the demo for today. So I'm going to say thank you for attending. Now, I am recording this, so when it is complete, I'm going to, that's okay, Rose, all good. I'm going to put the video in the group and then share it around. And this document that I've been reading from today is also in the link. And that's yours to download at any time. You're also able to download this chart of accounts if you want to have a look at it. And from here, I am totally open to any questions that anybody might have. So feel free to ask. You can ask through the chat, or you can I get you to unmute yourself? If I go participants, yep, I might. How do I unmute? Can I unmute? Oh, sorry, I should allow you to unmute yourselves. There we go. Allow participants to unmute themselves. That would help. Okay, so I'll just hang about here and you guys do whatever you like. I will be here. I'm going to hang here till 9 o'clock. So actually I'll keep recording just in case. And yeah, if not, enjoy the rest of your Friday. Happy Friday. Okay, looks like everyone's good to go. I will stop sharing and stop the recording.